One of the main, if not the main issue people have with The Last Airbender is the whole energy bending cop-out. While I don't necessarily think it's a good writing decision, I certainly believe it's better than the other decision that people constantly point to, which would be Aang killing Ozai. Now, before we move any further on, for the sake of the video, we'll have to pretend as though Nickelodeon allows Avatar to kill people. This is so no one in the comments goes down and starts talking about how the reason this didn't happen was because Nickelodeon didn't let them. I mean, that could be true, but I want to focus on the narrative side of things. I want this to be a narrative analysis, not a business or production or cultural analysis. So, I was watching Kato's video on the hottest Avatar takes, and I wrote a comment on what I think is probably my own hottest Avatar take. And this got me thinking more about the issue, so I decided to just make a video on it. This is probably my hottest Avatar take, but I think that energy bending and removing Ozai's bending is a vastly superior solution for Aang's conflict and resolution to Aang's character than killing Ozai. On the day of the Black Sun, Aang's crew, with the help of reinforcements, raid the Fire Nation only to literally find out that the Fire Lord was in another castle. It was a good plot twist, but let's say hypothetically for the sake of the argument that Aang did meet the Fire Lord. What would he have done? It isn't clear. He would have beat him up and then maybe handcuffed him? Yeah, because that's gonna last. The question is more or less just dodged for now. The Southern Raiders episode later on is about Katara confronting the man who killed her mother. Thanks to some advice from Aang, she doesn't choose to kill him, but doesn't choose to forgive him either. It was really interesting. This was supposed to get us excited as to how Aang would deal with Ozai. The difference between Katara and Aang's situation is that while Yan-Ra is a helpless old man, Ozai, even if bested in combat, is a significantly greater physical threat. You can't just lock him up and expect him to sit there helpless as he still has his bending. So it seemed as though the only solution was to kill him. Now, before we really dissect this dilemma, we need to go back to season 2 to the episode The Guru. This tells us a lot about who Aang is as a character. In this episode, Aang talks to Guru Pratik about entering the Avatar state. They do a whole routine about opening up the chakras, and at the end of the ordeal, they're faced with a dilemma. Aang has to choose between giving up his earthly attachments, aka Katara, or gaining the power of the universe unlocking the Avatar state. Aang chooses Katara. This tells us that Aang will obstinately refuse to sacrifice or bend his morals even in the face of pure evil. This is very shonen-esque, and I think it's very important for people, not just kids, to understand. People ought to have strong, uncompromising morals in the face of unbelievable pressure. This is important because if you stick to your morals, you will in a way stay true to yourself. It's your collection of beliefs that in some way determines who you are. You can have your opinion on the whole consequentialism versus deontology debate. Don't confuse this with me saying that deontology is the correct philosophy, but from my experience, deontological narratives tend to make more interesting, motivational, and powerful stories. In case you're unfamiliar with the terms, deontology is the idea that actions are right or wrong regardless of the consequence, whereas consequentialism is the idea that actions are only right or wrong based on the consequences that result from it. Even in the face of unimaginable evil, it is good to stand against the crowd, assert your will, and stand for your morals if you believe they're worth standing for. This isn't to say that you should never change your morals upon closer examination, but it is to say that some deeply held values are worth standing by. So with Aang and Ozai, it's clear that he shouldn't abandon his deeply held morals. Well, I mean, he could, but that'd be kind of lame. But again, he can't just have Ozai hanging around with his powerful bending. So it makes sense that if it was possible, he would get rid of it. And now this was done by a lion turtle giving Aang the ability to energy bend, the most primal form of bending. Aang receives this ability partly because he's adept at all bending styles, and I talk about this in a video of mine, but it's also because the lion spirit deemed Aang's spirit unbendable. He refused to give in to the pressure of his friends and even other avatars. Thus, he was the first avatar deemed worthy of obtaining energy bending. He was the first avatar that could spiritually handle energy bending. It's actually a pretty powerful compromise, but it still literally comes out of nowhere, so I can't necessarily say it's good writing. I get that Aang removing Ozai's bending is arguably a worse punishment for him than dying, considering how much pride he has in his ability to be strong. But again, it just comes out of nowhere. Maybe in the Nightmares episode where they have all those gags, they could have had Aang dream about some lion turtles, or even name drop the phrase energy bending in some extremely vague way. Or better yet, have Aang develop energy bending organically through some breakthrough insight in his bending styles. That way the message may have been, don't forsake your morals, find a way to deal with your problems while staying true to yourself, which I think is a more powerful message. It's certainly more interesting than compromise your morals for the sake of the greater good. If executed properly, the former could have been a great ending message, I think. Although really, I'm just spitballing with this last part, don't take what I'm saying too seriously. What makes the outcry over this more annoying in my opinion is that there seems to be another serious problem that no one seems to mention, or at least not with the same level of fierceness. And it's very close to this scene actually, it's how Aang got the Avatar state again in Book 3. It was, again, established before that Aang would need to sacrifice his love for Katara to reach the Avatar state, but since he got hit in the perfect spot on accident while getting beat up for 10 minutes before this, he didn't need to do that. They set up this complex situation where Aang has to choose his deeply held loves or the world. Love or power. He ultimately chooses love, but still gets power anyways. Aang ultimately didn't have to sacrifice his love for Katara, but was allowed to gain control of the Avatar state anyways. The authors let him bake his cake and eat it too. Now, given how they ended Book 2, I'm not actually sure how they would resolve this. Like, I don't even have any spitball ideas as to how they can resolve this. Because, like, of course you want to have the Avatar state in the finale of the show, right? But you also don't want to have Aang sacrifice his morals and sacrifice what he believes to be important. So, you know, I guess they kind of had to do this. But yeah, that part always struck me as a much bigger problem. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. And what's your most unpopular Avatar opinion? I tried to talk faster in this video because people always complain about how I talk too slow in my videos, so hopefully you guys maybe enjoyed this a bit more than my normal videos where I kind of admittedly talk a bit slow. But yeah, anyways, let me know about that. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you all next time. Peace.